You guys are going to like this one. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive, and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jim Huntsman, the host of the Western Huntsman Podcast, coming at you from the Broken Tine Studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho. Thanks for tuning in. Guys, I got a great episode for you. This show, I've got my friend Nate Davenport, who is a fellow local North Idahoan, and we talk about his bear hunt and trad bows and everything, just life in general, centered around hunting, right? And so I want to say that, Nate is he's a great guy that I've gotten to know over the last few years. He's been on the show before. He's a super focused trad bow and just hunter. You guys are going to hear the craziest story about his bear hunt this last year. He sauced a huge bear, and I'm super proud of him. It couldn't have happened to a better dude. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it with Nate Davenport. Give it up. Here we go. Podcast in my truck, and really? It's a diesel,
Oh, right.
And I thought that was going to pick up, but these mics they just keep all the outside sound out, right. So that works out. Cool. So I hit record. We're good, man. We're rolling.
Okay.
We're sitting here. Me and Nate Davenport are sitting in a 21-foot RV trailer that is a new Broken Tine studio, and we're up here in Clark Fork, Idaho. And Nate is a former guest on the show who came on last summer, and we talked about tattoos, and what else did we talk? We talked a little bear hunting.
Some bear hunting, yeah.
Yeah.
Elk hunting.
Yeah. Trad bows, all sorts of stuff. So Nate brought the skull of the bear that he just shot, a month ago or something? About a month ago.
Yeah.
So Nate shot a monster of a bear with his trad bow, and we're going to get the story out of him and everything else. So Nate, thanks for coming up, man.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate having me up here.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I haven't had an in-person guest in the studio for a long time. I was just telling you, and so this is kind of cool. Other than a little different than the last studio, right?
Oh, this is comfortable.
It's comfortable.
It's nice and cool in here.
That's the only good part about this one is, like, the old Broken Tines, I had, like, no air conditioning, and so I'd sweat my ass off. And we got this one, and I can make it like a meat locker with that air conditioner.
Yeah, it's nice in here.
It'll get super cold. But I appreciate you making the trip, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful drive coming up here.
I love
beautiful country.
From Sandpoint to Clark Fork. Yeah. It's an awesome drive. It's one of my favorite drives.
And I've lived in this area my whole life, but I haven't really spent much time this direction. So it's kind of cool just to see different country. And
well, we're gonna change that, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come up here and duck hunt down there on the river, because I don't duck hunt, so it's all yours, dude.
All right, yeah, we'll do it.
Actually, maybe I'll change. Maybe I will start duck hunting with you if you're coming up.
Yeah.
Bring the kiddos though and go get some ducks.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be fun.
And also, I got to make note that Nate brought me some bear sausage, and I'm pretty excited about it. Looking forward to that. How would you cook those?
They're smoked, but you need to, just
heat them
grill them or heat them or whatever. Yeah, but we do them. They're like a jalapeno cheese sausage, but we'll even do them and slice them up, put them in breakfast or
that's a good idea.
A bun or whatever. Yeah.
I'll make like a breakfast burrito with one of them.
They're pretty good. They're some of the best game sausages I've had made.
Really?
Yeah, they turned out really good. Ed Padilla in Post Falls is
gotcha.
Kind of the butcher guy that I go to for all my sausage and curing needs.
That's awesome, man. I just appreciate you doing that. You didn't have to do that, but I'm excited about it.
I'm stoked to share it with people, 'cause especially I think that the meat is great, and these sausages turned out great, and so it's always good to.
I'm gonna push your mic just a little closer to you. Will it pull? There we go. That's good.
Yeah.
There. We're having technical we're both trying to figure out how all this stuff works, setting up in the studio here. But so that's how you usually do it. Is just the breakfast, or I mean the sausage. You basically sausage most of the bear.
Yeah, we do. We also do hams. Tiered hams, and the hams are great. And then this year I took all of the shanks and had them smoked for like soup.
Yeah.
Like
sweet,
whatever,
man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Huh. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So, and then I still have some roasts rolled up in the freezer too, and so those will be good to try. But.
How many bears now have you gotten with your trad bow?
Just two.
Two.
Yeah.
That's like you say, just two, and like I've never even shot a bear, dude.
Yeah.
I was hunting with a rifle and I still didn't get one.
I've really only been hunting bears for. I was trying to think. I think it's been about 8 years since I started baiting bears.
Yeah.
And I've shot 3, and there's been a few years in between that I haven't, that I haven't baited or just didn't, shoot a bear or whatever. But the last 2 years I have done it with my traditional bow, and so that's pretty exciting. Something I have a lot of passion for is the traditional archery world, and so.
Yep, for sure. You're like all over the place shooting that thing, man.
I love it. We do a lot of 3D shooting and stuff like that, and it's a pretty awesome, like family oriented experience. And so now the kids aren't traveling with us to do as much shooting, but we still get out there and do it as much as possible. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody on the show about I was referencing you, and because we were talking about, how some people they get really fired up over this caliber or that bow, this brand, this pack, those boots, all that kind of shit. And we were kind of talking back and forth, and somehow it got along the lines of like there's people that are super passionate as like an archer. Like that is with an entity of a hobby or whatever you want to call it of its own.
Sure.
And you have that. Where for me, I'm not like passionate about shooting guns or shooting archery or shooting anything in particular. I'm only passionate about hunting. Sure. I just have to get good at it, to be effective at hunting. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And there's like two sides. And what's nice is I kind of wish I was. Because you've always got that to do, and all that's doing is making you a better hunter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's, really the reason why I started shooting 3D was just to get, more experience for hunting scenarios and stuff like that, and to get better at estimating yardages and to make you, a more lethal hunter. And then the first year that we shot 3D, I was shooting a compound bow, and then once I switched over to the traditional gear, I enjoy shooting it so much more that it just.
Why is that?
I'm not sure. I think that to me it feels right, and they're more enjoyable to shoot, where I can just be out there for an hour shooting my bow, and I wouldn't do that a lot with my compound bow, and therefore I wasn't as efficient with that tool, or whatever. And I did know making the switch that I had to put more effort into the shooting end of things because I didn't want to be a less lethal hunter by switching over. I wanted to be able to, maybe reduce the distances that I hunt at, but I didn't want to be less lethal, within that.
Well, whatever you're doing, it's working.
Yeah, I'd like to. I'm getting super fired up about this elk season, and I'm looking forward to trying to get an opportunity at an elk with the trad gear. So.
And are you going to be hunting a stand again? Call them into your stand?
I am going to put up a stand, and me and a buddy are going to do some backcountry stuff, and I want to try and get a stand into the area where we're going to be close to where we're going to be camping, so that during the day we can go out and hunt, and then in the evenings I can sit on that stand and on a trail or something like that. And
how long are you guys going for?
I think initially we're going to try and do the first 4 or 5 days from August 30th. Well, we'll try and go in on the 29th, and then maybe come out the 4th or something like that.
That's a good point. Like, for anybody that doesn't know, in North Idaho, it usually been, I don't know how long it's been this way, but like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
The opening day wasn't until September 6th.
Right.
And they just swapped it back, and now it's like in alignment with the rest of Idaho.
Yeah, and it's nice that, usually it gives me a little opportunity to focus on deer before elk season starts, but because I don't put a lot of, I guess, effort into, I put all my eggs into one basket. Once it's elk season,
Yep, I'm like that too.
And if I see a deer, I'll try and take advantage of the opportunity, but
yeah.
I'm not out there hunting deer. I'm trying to kill an elk, and if I can do that, then I'm perfectly happy just doing that.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. No, I'm the same way, man. If it's elk season, I'm focused on elk.
Yeah.
It'd have to be a monster buck for me to derail my elk.
Right. Last year I had a couple of decent, they're kind of younger bucks, but I'm anxious to get some cameras out where that was at last year and see if those bucks are still around, and there'll probably be better bucks this year. So
do you have like where I'm in my situation, every year I have, and sometimes it changes every year and sometimes it stays this way for a lot of years, but like I have a main hunt focus, right? And so for a long time it's been all elk, and then the last couple of years I've been really focused on big whitetail bucks because they kick my ass, man. And I've gotten decent bucks, but I've never gotten a monster whitetail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what my focus is going into this year. But then I was derailed with spring bear and baiting, and I want to go back and talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Because you'd mentioned you've been doing it for like 8 years. This was only my second year bear hunting, and it was my first year baiting.
Oh yeah.
I've never done it before, and so it's all new. But like now I'm kind of like there's a level of obsession with it, and I love it, man. I mean, I set the bait, and then like 4 days later, I don't know, maybe 3 days later, me and my cousin Andrew, we go up to check it, right? And we're like just sneaking up, and the way I had this set is there's this rock cropping we were going to be sitting in to watch the barrel, and the barrel's like 30 yards away maybe. Anyway, I come around the first rock, and no shit, there's a bear standing right there at the barrel, and I was so surprised I couldn't even attempt to shot, and it saw me. I stepped on a twig or something, and it ran off, but it just like sparked a new passion.
Yeah.
And I just always think, okay, I'm so passionate about elk hunting, I can't focus on anything else. But that's not true.
Yeah.
Like I can be passionate about bear in the spring, and then elk in September, and then deer in October, November.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so how is it like that for you? Like tell me a little bit about bear baiting and kind of how you feel about it, I guess.
Yeah, I get the first year was sort of like plagued with some issues, and I ended up not reading the regulations well enough, and I had a bait that was not legal,
Oh, really?
And I had Fish and Game contacted me about it, and I came out and talked to them, and they allowed me to, to remove the bait and just kind of chalked it up to inexperience. But that really was hard for me to like overcome and want to get excited about doing it again, because it was really hard to, at that time in North Idaho, I believe the regulations was it had to be 200 yards from a road or water, which in North Idaho in some areas it's pretty tough to get 200 yards away from any road, and that's kind of where I was. I thought it, because I was on a road that was closed, that it wasn't apply. It was still too close to that road, but even if it's a closed road, or whatever.
When you say closed, was it gated, was it actually they dig it? You know how they dig those like trough or trenches out at the beginning?
It's a piece of Idaho endowment lands, and they had it all gated, and
gotcha.
I think at that time maybe they would allow you to get back in there on four-wheelers and stuff like that, and so they had like a certain restriction on the size of vehicle that could get in there.
The 54-inch rule or whatever. Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it was discouraging, and I ended up having some bears on that bait, but I only had it in there for about a week before the Fish and Game contacted me, and I was like, well, crap, and so that kind of ruined that whole season. And then the next year, I baited on some private property, on a friend's private property, and so I knew where I could be, could be legal and everything like that, and that was a little bit easier, but there's just not an abundance of bears in that area. And I ended up shooting one bear with my rifle off of his property, and then the following year didn't have a single bear on my bait or whatever.
Oh, really?
And so
on the same property?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
And it's not a huge piece of property, and so there's really only one good spot to put a barrel in there, and so I started kind of branching out from those areas. And then a few years back they actually changed that regulation to 200 feet off of the road in northern part of Idaho or whatever, and so now it makes it a little bit easier to get a barrel out there into a legal spot. And
it's a bitch, man, getting the barrel out there.
It's so much work, and
it is.
Anybody that says it's easy to kill a bear over bait has never put in a bait.
I know,
before.
and I'll be honest, dude, I was kind of guilty of that. I used to think that, and I'm like, I don't want to go hunting where I'm baiting them,
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
And I don't know if it was that I thought it would be too easy. It just, something didn't sit right with me.
Sure.
But when you start looking at the whole picture, and the booming population of bears, and how difficult they are to hunt, like in North Idaho, for people that have never been through here. I mean, I'm looking at this picture on this screen here, and that is, let's see, I know the audience can't see this, but when I close that out, look, that's up Hayden Creek somewhere. I snapped that. And you look out, you can't spot and stalk that.
No.
Like, look at that. You're not glassing that.
Right.
It's too thick. There's too many trees. There's too many. It's just way too brushy. I can't figure out where my mouse cursor went. How do I? Oh, there we go. There we go. Get that back up. But anyway, yeah, it's just impossible. And so, finally, I did. I wanted to try this whole bear baiting thing, like you were saying, and it is freaking tough, man. It'd be a lot easier if I could just go out with some good glass and watch a ridge and watch a mountain or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because you gotta haul the barrel in, you gotta haul the bait in after that. Do you do popcorn or dog food or?
Yeah, I kind of I ran the gambit of different stuff trying over the years, and I was doing a lot of popcorn earlier this year because my baits are not super easy to get to, and so it's a lot easier to pack that stuff than a 50-pound bag of dog food or whatever. But
I'm surprised how heavy popcorn could be when it's packed.
And the last couple of years I was using bread from Snyder's or whatever, and and that gets to be pretty heavy too, because I tend to try and pack it down and condense it as much as I can to get it into an area, and that stuff gets pretty heavy pretty quick, and then everybody wants it, and so the availability of it is not always ideal. You end up spending 3 or 4 hours on the phone each week just trying to
track it down,
bread.
And especially because it's getting more popular. And so I did exactly what Batum 907 told me to do, which was she was saying, Jess Gann, who owns Batum 907, she was saying, either dog food or popcorn, and then the rest is you lure them into that with the Batum 907 products.
Right.
But they're not light either to get in there.
Yeah.
Like all the different scents.
Yeah.
And the powders and that stuff freaking, I catch a whiff of that every once in a while. It's still in my truck. Like residue or whatever. It's still on I got that I was using that Burlestock pack back there behind you. And that thing still smells like Batum 907 shit. And
it's hard to get it out of there.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't come out, man. I left it in the sun.
Had one of the spray bottles of the blueberry spray that I was spraying when I was sitting in my tree stand, and it left it partially like on spray, and then my pack was turned upside down, and it just spilt that stuff all over the place. Permeates every square inch of that pack.
Oh man, yeah, that's never coming out, man. And that it's fun too. They Batum 907 has that scent ball thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever got one of those.
Yeah, I used one this year for the first time.
And dude, I ran that thing up a branch, ran it up a tree, and tied it off. I was climbing the other tree to tie it off, so it's like all out of reach, trying at least. And I didn't have a ton of options, and they had that sucker down the first time I checked it. Yeah,
really?
I don't know how they did it. I swear it was like a team effort piggybacking off each other or something, but the bears had it down, and my game camera was just kind of angled out of view of it, so I couldn't see how they did it.
Sure, yeah.
I should have turned it a little bit.
I thought about, for a while, for about a week, I had a camera on the scent ball just to see if I could see anything, trying to get to it, or whatever, because I had this deadfall that was kind of like hung up in between some other trees, and so it was kind of pitched out across underneath my tree stand at like a 45-degree angle, and I was able to hang it up off of that, and it worked perfect. I was able to get it about 12 feet up off the ground, and then it was pretty much right on level with where my barrel was sitting or whatever. And so
gotcha.
I felt like it was kind of right in between where my tree stand is and the barrel. So.
Okay. Maybe I'll try something like that next year.
This was the first year I used the 907 stuff, and I was pretty happy with their products. I've used some other stuff in the past, and I think that if you're using some sort of scent product is it's going to be
a plus.
Yeah, for sure. But some of this stuff is just, it's incredible how potent the smell is,
I mean, I have a human nose, and I could smell that stuff halfway to my barrel in my truck, and I wasn't quite a mile off the road.
Oh, right, yeah.
It was like 3/4 of a mile. It's actually the same spot where I smoked old Broken Tines.
Oh, really?
Yeah, same spot. And so that is where I set the barrel, and I literally like halfway there, I could smell. If the wind is right, I could smell it. Which was always good, because that meant that I was downwind coming in. So
yeah, and I think too, once you start, if you use the ground cover stuff, that stuff just gets tracked in and out of there. And once we get to the bear story, I'll tell you a little bit about how, like specifically this one product I was using was probably the reason why I was able to kill this bear.
Well, let's talk about that, man, because I'm. And so I don't know if I mentioned this, or maybe I'll just reiterate it. So Nate killed a giant bear, and I was super. Was it last day of season?
No, but it was the last day that I was going to be able to.
That's
hunt.
What it was. It was the last day you were going to be able to hunt.
It was like the Sunday before the season closed.
Gotcha. And it's a great story. He told me over the phone, and I purposely not asked him to retell me so that I can, because I've heard a lot of bear stories since, but I was just really happy because Nate, dude, you work your ass off, man, for these bears, and everything you do is just you work your ass off, and so deserving of this bear. Tell us the story of it, dude. It's freaking cool.
Yeah, this bear season was sort of a grind. It was the first, I would say that I was really super anxious to, get my bait set up right away. And typically it's a few weeks before you start seeing any good, action on the bait. And I had decided that I was going to set up a secondary bait this year, where normally I just kind of put all my eggs into one basket and set up one bait and kind of throw everything that I can at that one bait. When bears start really hitting your bait, it's hard to keep up on just a single bait, let alone if you have two of them that are getting hammered.
Right.
Just one guy, it's a lot of work.
It's almost you like it would be a full-time job.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I have I'm blessed to work kind of later in the day, and so a lot of times I can go fill my baits up in the morning before I go to work, and then but it also kind of screws me for hunting evenings. I can't really go out and hunt, after work. It's dark by the time I get home, and so it's all kind of weekend stuff. And but I really want to, provide some good opportunities with the traditional bow. And one of the reasons why I like baiting bears is because I feel like that's my only opportunity to kill one with a bow like that, you know. I mean,
yeah.
I'm definitely not like a super experienced like spot and stock hunter where I can get within, you know, killing range of a traditional bow to a bear on, you know, a regular basis. And so
again, that would be a full-time job.
Yeah, for sure. but yeah, so I had got my first bait all set up, and then it was maybe about 3 or 4 days later I got my second bait set up, and it's kind of it's not too far. They're not too far from each other, but I figured it would be far enough apart where there's going to be different bears happening or whatever. And so within maybe a week and a half, I started having a couple of bears on my first bait, and some pretty decent bears. So one exceptionally large female bear.
She have cubs?
She didn't, and I've had her on that bait for like the last 2 years pretty regularly, and she hasn't had any young ones with her. And so initially she was going to be my target bear, you know, and then I had a couple of more like medium sized bears, you know, pretty average, you know, Idaho bears or whatever. But and then I had one sow with cubs that was coming in, you know, fairly regularly, but it was all nocturnal. And so in the beginning I was just like, they're getting to the bait enough to where I had to fill it up on the regular, but I was having a hard time trying to get them to show up in the daytime. And so I wasn't putting a lot of effort into sitting on my bait because I just knew that there probably wouldn't be a great, you know, opportunity. And then the other bait was just nothing happening, you know, and so it was a little discouraging. And then probably it had been about 3 weeks, and I was finally starting to get a couple of bears that were showing up right at last light, and so I decided to go out and hunt my stand, and sat out there from, I don't know, maybe like 3 o'clock in the afternoon until it was getting dark at like, you know, 8 o'clock or maybe a little bit after or something like that. And
yeah,
so,
June.
Yeah, and so I'm sitting there, and it's almost dark. It's, you know, 30 minutes before, you know, time to quit shooting or whatever, and I hear a rifle shot, and it's close, you know, like within a couple 100 yards of where I'm sitting. And
was it like in the direction of your other bait?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was kind of further back from, you know, deeper into the area of where I was sitting, and but close enough to where I was like, well, that's, you know, somebody just shot a bear, and there's a pretty good chance that I have pictures of that bear.
Yeah.
And so I kind of waited around for a little bit and didn't see anybody, you know, making their way, you know, out of there or whatever. And so got back to the rig, and there was another rig parked there, and I was just I was a little deflated, you know what I mean? Like, once you put that effort in, and then you feel like it's certainly not like it's my bear, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it, you know, kind of feels that way initially. Or
you have kind of a sense of ownership when you get them on your camera all the time, right? And I don't know, there is, you know, my last place, I know my neighbor shot this huge buck, and I called him. It was I said it was my buck, but he was only coming in at like 3 a.m.
Right.
And turns out he did shoot that sucker, man. And I remember when I heard the shot thinking that he probably just killed that big buck, because you know. And anyway, yeah, I know what you mean. And it's not ours, but you know. But
I was ultimately like super curious and wanted to find out if that person had a bait in there, just to know, you know. And so I left a note on his rig on the way out, and told him my name and number, and I figured that he had a bear down, and offered to help with the bear if, you know, he needed any help, just to call me or text me or whatever. And he didn't call or text that night, but then a couple of days later he called me, and we talked on the phone for a while, and started, neither one of us realized that we had bear baits 200 yards apart from each other on the same ridge, you know. And so things like that just happen,
It's just
It's not like you
circumstance,
can't really be upset about it. It just is what it is,
Yep.
And so we started talking a little bit and kind of become fast friends and started to share some pictures that, that we had on our cameras and stuff. And pretty soon we started to realize that he had pictures of bears that I didn't, and vice versa. And so in this small area where our baits are only 200 yards apart from each other, we had a total of probably 10 bears in this area between both of our.
Isn't it crazy to
baits,
think we
so
have that density of the population?
It's crazy.
It's crazy because you never see them.
Yeah, and before I started baiting bears, like, I didn't think that there was that many bears out there.
Me neither. I thought,
I mean,
there's, a few bears maybe in a couple 50 square miles or whatever. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. There's a lot.
So, and then he shares this picture with me of this giant boar that he's got on his camera, and he's telling me, well, this is my target bear, and I was like, well, I don't have that bear on my camera, and so that's kind of crazy, and then that big female that I had, he didn't have on his camera, and so it was kind of interesting, and so anyway, we had each other's numbers and had told each other that if either one of us were able to get something down, then we could help out with it or whatever. And so, man, about a week later he called, and I just got home from work, and it was right before dark, and he called, and so I knew he had something, and so I answered the phone, and he's like, oh, I killed that big boar. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And so I went out and met him out there, and it was pretty neat because he lives kind of closer to that area, and so he was able to get his wife and his kids down there and get them up to the bear for pictures and
nice.
Have them be able to experience it and everything. But his bear was just giant. I mean, 7-foot bear, and the skull I think was 20 1/4 inches.
Is that the one you were telling me about before we started recording?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I didn't put the two together that it was that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool.
My buddy Eric. And so, it was just phenomenal to be able to, experience that. And even though I, would love to shoot a big bear, something like that was just totally off my radar. I didn't think that, I'd see a bear of that, size or quality. And
I was hoping to find one the size of a Cocker Spaniel.
Yeah.
If you're anything like me, hunting is a year-round thing for you, and we're always thinking about how to make our next upcoming season a little bit better, and one way to do that is with gear. And you guys know I'm not a big gear junkie, but I do have some important gear items that I'm always a huge fan of, and they're right here available on this show. Let's talk about Scree gear. Scree is my go-to camo. Scree is high-performance hunting attire and gear, scientifically tested camo patterns, and all backed by a great company, and I wouldn't recommend it to you if I didn't truly believe in the Scree product. They've got a complete layering system for all terrain and conditions, gear designed to adapt to the weather. It's rugged gear. It's got a lifetime warranty, VIP sizing and exchange program. You can't go wrong with Scree. Get the best out there without breaking the bank, and to make it even better, use promo code The Western Huntsman for 15% off and free shipping. Hell of a deal. Check it out at ScreeGear.com. Next on the list is my oldest and fondest sponsor of the show is Phelps Game Calls. One thing I love about companies like Phelps Game Calls is the American success story that came out of it. And Phelps started in Jason Phelps' garage years ago, and it's now one of the premier hunting call companies on the market, and I wouldn't point you in that direction if I didn't feel like they were the best calls available. Jump on PhelpsGameCalls.com. When you find a call you like, use promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off. I promise you, you will not regret it. Hoffman Boots. Hoffman Boots is a go-to boot company I've been using for years and years and years. And the cool thing about it is I'm only on my second pair of Hoffman Explorers. I put lots of miles on my Hoffman Explorers. They're a great boot. They're not going to cost you a small fortune to get. And they have all the same guarantees and warranties that every other company out there has. If you want to be confident, guys, do not skimp on boots. Go to HoffmanBoots.com. get you a pair of, for me, I like the 8-inch Explorers, but they also have the 6-inch. They have all sorts of different options. Check it out at hoffmanboots.com and use promo code Huntsman10, all caps lock, for 10% off. And last but not least is Tacticam. Are you interested in filming your hunt? And are you interested in helping with conservation efforts throughout the North American continent? Well, then I got a deal for you. Tacticam is a point of view type kind of camera that records in 4G. They also have other products like the Film Through Scope, the FTS, and you attach that to your rifle scope and you can film your shot right there. And they have the mounts for your shoulder, for your head. You can mount it to your bow. You can mount it to wherever and whatever you want. Lots of versatility with the Tacticam. Other products include, but are not limited to, the fisheye camera. The Tacticam Spotter LR is definitely worth a look if you want to film what you're seeing through your glass while you're actively hunting and get it on camera. It's a great thing. But I think that the thing that I'm most excited about with Tacticam this year is the new Reveal cell cam that is coming out. This trail camera will send you images in real time as they're coming in. They've got like an enhanced antenna for better service. If you're like managing property or something like that, or you've got a bear bait set up somewhere that you have phone service, you can get those pictures right there to your phone. This cell cam is super, super cool. I'm really excited about it. And you can get all this at the westernhuntsman.com/gear. Go to the gear shop. You'll find all the Tacticam stuff right there. Best pricing out there on it. And what happens is we split the profitable revenue from these sales of the Tacticam gear, and half of it goes to conservation efforts, which vary depending on what quarter of the year it is. Right now we're raising money and trying to get some money over to Sportsman's Alliance. It's a great cause, and that is what's going to go down when you shop for Tacticam gear at thewesternhuntsman.com. So go over there and check it out and get you a camera. Guys, let's get back into it. I sure appreciate it.
But so anyway, we ended up, I helped him, and he had another buddy out there, and we were able to get, his bear out for him, and and he got it to the taxidermy shop and shared some, meat with me and stuff like that. And so it was pretty neat. The last thing I wanted to do was go through the whole season and not be, at least be able to experience, somebody else's, kill and all of that. And so,
that's awesome.
And it was like maybe a few days later, I decided I was gonna go up and check my camera on my second bait that I had basically abandoned for like 3 weeks. I hadn't been there and wasn't getting anything, didn't have a single picture of a bear on the other camera, and nothing had been to the bait, and so I just left it and didn't even think about it too much. And I was planning on hunting my first bait that evening, and I went to the other spot to check my camera, and lo and behold, for the last 2 weeks, these bears had just been hammering my bait, and had a couple of decent bears on.
And you hadn't refilled that barrel?
No.
Oh, wow.
And it was, I had brought a load up there to refill it just in case, and so I was able to put some more stuff in there, but they pretty much had it cleaned out. There was just a little bit left kind of in the bottom, and so I rejuiced that bait up, and then I called another buddy of mine that we elk hunt together quite a bit, and asked him if he was interested in sitting on one of my baits, because I figured that between the two of us, somebody was going to see a bear, And so he didn't get off work until probably 3 o'clock or 3:30, and doesn't get out to the bait until maybe like 4:30, about 4:30, and I get a text from him saying that he's out there and set up, and about an hour later he calls me and has already shot this bear.
Jeez, man.
I was going, oh wow, this is crazy, But again, I was super happy for him, but at the same time, you're just like, man, I kind of want to shoot one of those things.
Yeah, right. It's like, okay, Getting left out.
So, but had actually all of the sudden things had kind of flopped, and I was getting lots of action on that second bait and not a lot on the first one, on the first bait site. And so I decided that I was going to kind of throw some more at that thing and get it stocked up, and had a couple of, decent sized bears on there. One bear in particular that was really cool cinnamon bear that had a really like kind of light chocolatey coat to it, and really neat looking bear, but not huge by any means. And then had this other bear that was pretty much nocturnal, but was showing up occasionally, and was good size, but I had no idea what I was really looking at when I was looking at pictures in my camera, and have a hard time, even with a barrel there, you kind of have a hard time judging them. Like,
it's tough, man.
I tend to take weight off of the big ones and put weight on the small ones. Like you're optimistic that the smaller bear that is bigger than what than what it really is, but then at the same time you see a big bear and you're like, well, is it really that big, or is it just all in my head? And but he was kind of off my radar. Like, he was so inconsistent, and this other chocolate bear was coming in regular, like almost every day. And so I hunted a couple of days that weekend, and then the following weekend was my last hurrah. And so I was gonna sit as much as I could, and then my parents end up selling their house and were moving, and so I spent all day on Saturday helping them, move stuff, and so I kind of cut into that a little bit, but then was basically, I had never done a full day sit in a tree stand before. It's usually I sit, the second half of the day, or
I have never done that,
from 2 or 3 a.m. or 2 or 3 p.m. until dark or something. But I decided that I was going to just go and sit in the tree until I killed something.
And so you were in a tree stand,
right?
Okay.
Yep. And I set my tree stand up. My first bait set up at 17 yards from the barrel to my tree, and then the second one just kind of worked out that way, but it was like 20 yards. But I am able to practice that shot kind of religiously, and so I know exactly what I need to do to make that happen or whatever. And so I was sitting in this stand, and it was just quiet all day, and it's close enough to roads where you can hear rigs kind of in the background and stuff like that, and there was there was dump trucks going down the road and stuff like that. I was just like rolling my eyes sitting in this tree stand, listening to all this stuff, and every once in a while you hear somebody on a trail down below you walking their dogs barking, and it's just wow. It's just it was kind of interesting, and so I'm just sitting out there and read my book for a while and got bored of that, and was literally getting to the point where I was like, had doubts 3 or 4 different times through the day, and was ready just to climb down and say, hey, that's it, I'm done, I'm not, this ain't gonna happen, or whatever.
That feeling where you have to force yourself to stay.
Yeah.
Is that because I've had that for hunting whitetail. You know?
And then you kind of start putting, goals on. Well, I'll sit till this time, or I'll sit till this time, and so I had pretty much made it all the way through the day, and I was like, well, man, if I get down now and this bear walks by in the last hour of light, then that would be like the worst thing.
Yeah. Then what
ever,
do you do? Yeah.
And so I've already put all this effort into it. I might as well stick it out, And so when, I should back up. That morning when I went to go to my tree stand, I typically do not like to go to my camera, which is set up right on top of my barrel, to check my camera. But I hadn't been there in a week, and it was just killing me. And so I went to my camera and checked and pulled my card out so I could check it. And then as I backed out to my tree stand, I used some of that fatal draw powder, from
on your feet,
on the trail right over the top of my footprints.
That's
basically.
a good idea.
Yeah, and so I figured that it would cover the scent that I had on the ground enough to where maybe they wouldn't have less likely to smell me.
Makes sense.
And so then it was probably maybe like 6 o'clock before, and nothing had come through all day, and then I started hearing something, and this little bear comes out, and like not even like 70-80 pound bear, like last year's cub basically.
Chihuahua.
Yeah. And he was pretty inquisitive and was kind of working his way slow down to the barrel, but as soon as he got down on the trail, he winded me and actually took off, and I was like,
really?
Oh no.
He winded your trail or you in the stand?
I think he smelled me. I think the wind was just blowing that way, and or maybe he just sensed something and decided he wasn't gonna stick around. And usually with that bear in particular, I would have him on my camera, and he would usually be there and then would take off, and then usually within an hour of him being there would be another bear in that area, and coming through to my bait. And so I was like, well, maybe something else will, try and come through, or maybe he was spooked off by another bear that's close, or something like that. So I just kind of waited it out, but I was really starting to think, well, shoot, man, if he winded me, then big smart bear is definitely not gonna want anything
that would
to
be
do
my
with it,
first thought. For sure.
And so anyway, it was 8 o'clock and starting to basically like the last hour of light, and my wife texts me and was like, when are you coming home? I'm like, and I got dinner ready, when are you gonna be home?
I hate those kind of texts.
And so I told her, I was like, well, it gets dark at 9. I'll probably be too dark to shoot by 8:45, and so that was kind of my goal. I was going to sit till 8:45, and it was about 8:30, and I heard something, and it was down below me in a different area from where I kind of thought a bear would approach, but heard a stick snap, and the woods have been quiet all day long, and so that I was like, well, I loaded an arrow and had my bow in my hand ready, and pretty soon this bear shows up kind of through the brush, and it's this big bear, and I was like, holy crap, I have my my barrel situated in a way that I have brush piled up on one side so that they have to come around that wall to present a shot as they're going into the barrel, Well, he didn't even look at my barrel. He just had his nose to the ground and walked straight to me. And he's coming down this trail, and I, had tension on my string but didn't have my bow drawn back or anything, and he was coming straight at me, and so there was no shot whatsoever, and I was like, man, this thing's gonna...
Is your heart just beating out of your chest?
Yeah, I mean, it was just unreal, and I just was watching him, and he just had his nose right to that scent and was just following that scent trail until when he ended up stopping, he stopped at 10 yards, and he knew I was there. He looked right at me, and I was like, man, this bear is gonna leave.
He's gonna bolt.
Yeah, and so I could tell that bears are kind of weird. Like they aren't like deer where they like jump, or like when they're startled, you can sort of almost see them thinking, and then next thing you know, they're just gone. And once they actually take off, I mean, it's unreal how fast they are
they're
getting
crazy
through
fast.
there. Well, I could tell that he was going to leave, and the way that this area is, he basically walked through this alley of trees to where I was at, and so he had to go back that direction. And so as soon as he started to turn, I was able to get an arrow drawn back and release it right as he turned broadside, and was able to get a good shot. And when he left, it was like the whole mountainside came unglued. I mean, he was doing 100 miles an hour. I mean, I knew that I had a good shot, I didn't get full pass through on the arrow. He was quartered slightly, and I hit him behind the shoulder, and it was sort of like buried in the brisket on the offside. But I knew that I had good penetration, and it was right where I wanted to put an arrow. You know,
that's sweet, man. That's a high adrenaline kind of moment too. So to get that kind of a shot is pretty impressive, man.
It's it's still sort of hard for me to believe, even when I am thinking about how it all worked out. And I think that the only thing that really enabled me to be able to pull off that shot is the fact that I take archery so seriously, you know, and practice angled shots and practice, you know, all kinds of things like that. And so it was a purely an instinctive shot. There was no, you know, I mean, I got the feather to my nose and let it go, you know, as fast as I could.
Yeah, man, that's impressive. Like that, it legitimately, that's impressive. I would have missed.
Yeah,
I totally would have missed.
Yeah, and I mean, I probably will get shit for it because, you know, people might say it's, you know, unethical to shoot an animal moving or, you know, something like that. But I have great confidence in being able to make shots in a certain scenario, you know, and I think that had that bear did things a little bit differently where he never did present a broadside shot, then I would have never taken that shot. You know, I mean, that was my biggest fear, is that he was never gonna.
Sounds like that just
actually turn. You know,
I mean, it worked out perfect, man. Gosh, and it's huge, man. It's just a big bear. I shared the picture on the Instagram and the Facebook and all that.
Yeah.
So
it's like beyond my wildest dreams, and like I didn't realize how big the bear was until we tracked it, and the tracking was impossibly hard. The arrow was still in the bear, didn't pass through the other side, you know.
So not a lot of blood or what?
Man, bears are notoriously fat and furry, and so they catch every bit of blood that's coming out of them, and so I tried to pay a lot of attention to where he was going, and I could hear him probably for 3 or 4 seconds, which seemed like much longer, obviously, but going through the brush, and there's sort of almost a flat trail. There's like these old skid roads that go through that area, and he pretty much stayed on that, and it sounded like he was going to try and go up the hill, and then right after that he went down, and there was a bunch of crashing, and so I felt like I had a good idea of where he ended up. But you never really know, you know, and blood trailing bears in the dark is my least favorite part of bear hunting. Does
it make you nervous?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I feel a lot better.
I haven't ever done that, so just but it would make me nervous.
The last couple of times I've had buddies with me, and that makes me feel a lot better, you know. And
do you want another beer, dude?
I'm still good.
That's because you've been doing all the talking. I've just been sitting here listening. So that's the other cool part with this studio, man. The beer fridge is right here.
Right there, yeah. So my buddy Eric that I had just met, and he just had killed a monster bear. I called him, and he was actually texting me all day because he knew I was out there hunting. And he's like, "Did you shoot anything yet? Did you kill anything yet?" Like all day. I'm like, "Man, come on." And so when I finally called him, he was so excited and made it out to me right away. And then had my other buddy that I was able to help him kill his bear came out too. And so it was awesome. And then when we went to go trail the bear, I was lucky to have Eric with me because I consider myself a pretty decent tracker, but we would go 20 to 25 yards with no blood in between, and we're reading broken sticks and, you know, holes through the brush and stuff. And so, but as soon as he turned, as long as he was on that flat trail, and even as he went uphill, there was no blood, but as soon as he turned downhill, there was blood everywhere, you know. It was coming out of his mouth, and
he started coughing it up, and
and so, and he basically lay down right there where it sounded like, and so I didn't actually open up the body cavity to see, what the trauma was, but I'm certain that it was both lungs and probably some arteries at the very least.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, great shot, dude. Well, good job, man.
Thanks, man. I was
awesome.
Pretty stoked, and like I said, it was just unreal. And then I didn't even realize what it really was until when Eric was like, "Man, that thing is giant,"
It's a monster.
And then I took it into the taxidermy guy, and one of them says, "Well, that looks like it could be, go 18 inches, which would that's like the minimum requirements of Pope and Young."
Oh, really?
Records. And so I was anxious to see what the actual measurements were, but I was already kind of in disbelief that it
would even be close.
Would be that that big. And then once we still kind of unofficial measurements, I'm going to get it measured by a Pope and Young representative, but the taxidermy guy measured it the other day, and it measured 19 inches and 3/8, and so it was quite a bit bigger than we even thought.
God,
so,
that's a huge bear, man.
Yeah,
I just
so
can't believe it. I was so excited when you texted me that you had that. Man, I was so excited.
Yeah, I still have a hard time, believing that it really happened that way, and yeah, just incredible experience. I'm super stoked I was able to do it with my longbow. And
do you have a superstitious side or a I don't know how to. I feel like there is a hunting price to pay for success. You know what I mean? Now, and I've said this before, and I'll have to say the disclaimer again. We all know the dude or lady that walks 10 feet from their truck, and there's a screaming bull right there.
Right.
And gosh, I got to get used to not knocking all my microphone stands in here. And there's those the overly unrealistically lucky situations, right?
Yeah.
And that happens.
I'm the opposite end of
I am too. I have
spectrum.
never had some situation where it's unbelievable luck, right? Never have I done that. But I do feel like there is a price to pay for success, and it's through hard work, it's through commitment, it's through practice and preparation and all these things. And obviously all those things are designed to help you get to the point of success.
Sure.
But there's this karma aspect.
Oh,
do you think that too, or is it just me?
Thinking. I mean, I think that, the fact that I was able to not let myself be upset when somebody else killed a bear and instead decided that I wanted to reach out to them and offer them help. I feel like that was, I was buying myself some good
karma. Yeah, because there's two ways you can go there. You could have let the air out of his tires.
Yeah, right.
Or you left him a note saying, "Hey, if you need help,
right.
let me know."
He didn't have out-of-state plates, and so I probably wouldn't have done that.
You gave him a pass.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I kind of, I'm kind of tend to be that guy that I get upset when that stuff happens, and so
I think we all do, man.
To kind of, just reel it in and realize that, what you really should be is happy that somebody else was able to make something happen, and so, but yeah, I mean that and just putting in the work,
the work, man, and the time,
the long sits and stuff like that. And the last 2 years, when I've shot my bears with my traditional bows, has been the last hour of the last day that I could hunt. And so, man, there's something. I feel like I have to stick it out, and it would be nice if it could happen in the first hour of the first day sometimes.
Right? And you can get on with life, right?
Yeah, right.
And that's exactly so. I was telling you, I've always been a big time mule deer hunter, and I've got a passion for mule deer, and I've said this a million times, but I've been getting really into whitetail. And so last fall was the biggest whitetail buck I've ever shot. And he's no monster. He's definitely not a monster, but he was a nice 4-point buck, right? And so for me to sit in a stand is a feat in itself,
Oh,
because
it's
I don't have that kind of discipline.
soul crushing.
Soul crushing.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And so
It takes a little bit out of your soul every time you do those long
you do,
sits,
and
you know,
I have a very hard time with it, but I did it for weeks last November. And I sat there, and every night I was out in that stand every morning. Well, not every morning, it depended on if I had to work or not, but every night I was out there at least.
Yeah.
Last night of deer season, which I think was December 2nd or something like that for that tag. The last night, you know how it's like, oh, you can't shoot 30 minutes after sunset kind of thing. Well, this was like 29 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, right.
That buck comes out, and I knew because I was getting antsy. I had that it was the night that I was supposed to get on this Zoom conference call with the Idaho Wildlife Federation, they could vote me on as a board member.
Oh.
Or say no and vote me out of there.
Uh-huh.
And so, literally probably 30 seconds of time I had left. I shot the buck. I got it gutted, and got back to I was actually doing the meeting in the studio. Ran back into the studio, and got on this Zoom conference call. And I had to make sure it was just my head in the picture, because I was covered in blood on my arms, right? And they had no idea. And I'm like trying to introduce myself. Yeah, hey, nice to meet everybody. How you doing? Trying to act like I'm not some savage dude, you know. And but no, that's what that was, in my opinion. That was the biggest whitetail I've ever shot. It was the karma, not the karma. Karma. I feel like I'm using the wrong word. It's the price I paid for success. You know what I mean? The time, the hard work. I paid attention to guys like Troy Pottinger, who are really successful with whitetails, you know, and did everything that he teaches, and finally it came together on the last freaking few minutes of daylight.
I remember you posting that, and I was so stoked for you, and I seen that.
I think I
post
texted
come
you.
In, right. You know, it was the last day of the season, you know, and
worked my butt off, and the same thing for you with that bear, and it's just like that. That's why.
But it makes it all worthwhile, you know. I mean, it just all that work now becomes. I mean, it was always acceptable, but it becomes, you know, more enriching experience because you put that much more into it.
That's a great way to put it. More enriching. It's more. There's the reward seems so much greater.
Sure. Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
Than just, you know, somebody that, again, jumps out of their truck and 10 feet later there's a big bull standing there screaming, and
which
they
I'd
arrow
take
it,
that
know?
Occasionally.
I would too, like once or twice in my life, if I could have that, and have it kind of roll down the bank right into the back of my truck, so I don't have to haul it out. You know, that'd be cool. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're.
I would take it easy. It just doesn't come easy.
Exactly.
Often.
Yeah. I have never had. I have had people tell me these stories, and it just blows my mind. Oh yeah, I'm 150 yards from the road, and this buck or this bull screaming his head off comes running into 10 feet, and I shot him. I'm like, dude, that just has never. No, I take that back. You know what? This last turkey season, I had done all the work though to get to this point, so I don't think it was just luck. But I called in a bunch of turkeys, and you know, one reason or another couldn't get a shot off. Driving down the road on my way home, and I had to pee. And I get out, and I got my shotgun out, walked, I don't know, down into this, because I thought something was moving in this little kind of gully area, or whatever. Walked down there, and I'm peeing, and I start clucking, you know, and I'm, and this freaking gobbler goes buck wild and comes at me and starts running down the hill, and I shoot, and it starts flying, because I missed, but he's flying towards me, and I shot him right in the head, and he landed right in front of my truck.
Really?
No kidding, dude. Yeah, that's the luckiest thing I've ever had. So, but it's not nearly as exciting when it's a turkey.
Yeah, right. It's still fun, though.
Yeah, it is still fun. It's all a good time, but there is just something about that hard work that it just, when it pays off, the payoff is just, it just seems greater. And in your case,
that's it too, for
like
sure.
I knew you were out there working your butt off for this bear, and so when you texted me or whatever, I don't remember if you texted me or messaged me on Facebook or whatever it was, but dude, I was just excited, because that's when I get excited. If it's somebody that I know, it's like their first time ever hunting and they just got totally lucky, I mean, I'm happy for them and everything, but it's just different. They didn't really work that hard. It just was dumb luck, right?
Sure, yeah.
And where with you, I was just stoked, man. It was just awesome. I mean, great bear.
With me, it's mostly bad luck.
Exactly. If it weren't for bad luck, we wouldn't have any luck at all, right?
Yep.
No, that's great, man. I just and to do it with a trad bow is just freaking awesome. So
yeah, I've been pretty stoked. I grew up rifle hunting, and then had a compound bow when I was younger, and shot it a lot when I was maybe 16 to 18 or something like that. And then as I started and hunted with it a little bit, but never even took a shot at anything.
Mm-hmm.
And but actually that's not true. The first year that I actually elk hunted with my compound bow, I think I was probably 17, and me and my brother and my cousin were all hunting in this certain area, and we would go up there during rifle season, but we had decided that we were going to try and get in there during the archery season, and there was always lots of elk sign in there. And so, and this road that came in was like right on top of this ridge road, and then the road split and went around this knob, and so there was a road that went around each side of this knob. And it's like opening morning, and still dark, and we're walking down this road. Well, we decided we're going to split up and each go around this knob and meet on the other end. And I'm like, just dumb kid walking around, and it's just starting to get light, and I see a couple of tracks in the road, and it's like kind of where a spring's kind of going across the road, and it's muddy right there, and there's a couple of tracks, and I was like, oh, those tracks look pretty fresh. And then saw some sign, and it looked pretty fresh, and so I decided I'm going to follow these tracks up over this saddle on this knob. And took like 10 feet into the wilderness, and heard something, and turn and look, and there's this bull elk standing there like 40 yards away, and it was just...
Was he looking at you?
Oh yeah, look, he didn't know what I was at that time,
he just knew you were.
Knew I was there, and I was like, he took me so by surprise. I was like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and the sun was just coming up and like shining on his antlers, and it was just like,
oh man,
just a magical scene or whatever.
Awesome.
And I was totally busted, like out in the open, and so I decided I was going to try and get an arrow. It was looking right at me, and so as soon as I moved, he started to kind of take off, but I threw a cow call in and ran and got behind this tree and drew my bow back and was cow calling, and he stopped, and I didn't know rangefinder or anything, and I undershot him by 30 yards probably. He was probably like 60 yards out there. I was thinking he was like 40 yards or something, but I think I had like 2 or 3 pins on my bow, and wasn't very proficient with it by any means. But and then it was quite a few years that I went and not hunting, not shooting a bow, and then when my kids were, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6, I started kind of getting back into it. I had a little bit more time, a little bit more money to kind of throw at it. And started shooting just yard sale compound bows, because that's all I could really afford, and so I'd buy
I bought my first one at a pawn shop,
Golden Eagle or an old PSE or something, and would shoot those and hunted with them a little bit, but really never got good shot opportunities. And then finally decided I wanted to get better and put a little bit more into it, and so bought a decent bow, and started looking more into good arrow setups and stuff like that, and putting a little bit more time and effort, and did a couple of 3D events, and then was able to shoot a couple of elk with my compound bow, and that was just like unreal for me. I mean, it was like I'd shot
like
a lot
life altering kind of thing.
I've shot a handful of elk and a lot of deer with my rifle, and they've all been special and provided, food and nourishment for my family, but to do it with a bow was like a whole new level of appreciation and fulfillment. Yeah, absolutely.
I know what you mean, man. Yeah.
So, and then I really hadn't been. It was actually after I shot my first bull with a compound bow that I don't know that was a deciding factor by any means, but it was that next year that I decided to take up traditional archery, and then initially just had thought, well, I'll get this recurve and start shooting it, and then maybe in a couple of years I can hunt with it, be proficient enough to hunt with it, and but still had intended on continuing to shoot my compound bow, and I never looked back. I've never shot a compound bow since.
Oh, really?
The first day I shot a recurve.
Man, you're giving me a complex because I shoot a compound.
Well, you got a new bow.
I did. It's right behind you.
Yeah, I want to check it out.
Yeah, well, I'll show you, man. But it's a compound. But I have not upgraded my bow.
I don't want anybody to get the
no, you don't have that.
Yeah,
you don't have that kind of attitude, man.
Yeah, I think that it's like, I think that if you're doing it with a bow, that's awesome. I don't care what.
That's
what
how I feel.
Doing it with.
It is more challenging with a trad bow or long bow, whatever. But I don't get an attitude about it either. I got a customer that he builds longbows, and he's gonna build me one, but because he's always giving me a hard time. He's like, I'm gonna teach you how to bow hunt like a real man with one of these, and it's just fun and games with him and I, and I'm always giving him a hard time about stuff because he drives a Dodge. No, I'm just kidding. You don't drive a Dodge, do you? Okay, good, because Dodges are not allowed on this new property. I don't know if
I think I saw the sign.
There's a sign, yeah. I don't think they'd make it up the hill anyway. No, but it's just like that. The truck rivalry thing. As long as it's fun, it's good. It's just like bow hunters versus rifle hunters.
Sure,
it's okay to have a rivalry if it's in good humor and fun, and just
as long
whatever.
As everybody understands that it's cool to everybody should do what
you're
they
passionate
feel like
about.
is best for them.
I mean, I do all of it. I rifle hunt, I bow hunt, I just the trad bow is my next thing.
Yeah.
And I was gonna do it this spring, but then with this whole move onto the property, dude, I don't have time to add anything right now, because like I was telling you before we recorded, that's what sucks about this whole process. There's no just downtime. Right? It's filling propane, filling water, getting gas.
There's always something that needs to be done.
Laying gravel out. It's just always something. So I'm probably not going to add it this year because I just want to get everything done so that during hunting season I don't have any of the distractions of the I don't know what to call this place, the homestead, whatever.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
So, but anyways, now that's. I was going to ask you, you got any cool tattoo stories from? Remember last year you told us some crazy stories.
Yeah. No. I mean this year has been crazy in itself. I mean it's just like but the one thing that kind of stuck with me after this last year is that we got laid off in March this last year because of the COVID stuff, and luckily it was only for a couple of months. Well, a couple of months of being off of work is crazy for me. But I didn't have any extra income coming in, and so it was pretty dicey. But definitely, I'm the type of person that I don't like to sit around, and so I was learning new skills and doing projects, and gave me some more time to hunt turkeys and bears and all that time that I was complaining about being off last year, I was kind of missing this year
for sure, man.
Yeah, especially when it was getting down to the wire at the end of bear season. It's like, man, I can count how many days I can hunt, and I can count how many hours I have left to hunt here. And so
because you're stuck once you have like your hours. You've got appointments that people have been waiting for a long time, right? To get a tattoo.
And so typically we're booked for about a year out, anywhere from.
So it's not like you could just be like, hey, I'm not coming in today.
Yeah, in fact,
it's hunting season.
I was smart enough about a month ago when I was actually was getting towards the end of the bear season. I was like, man, I wish I had some more time to hunt. And so I looked forward into my schedule, and I already had appointments out into June of next year.
Wow.
And so I was trying to book off a few days here and there, you know, and so I always kind of try and look forward. And then usually I book off the whole month of September, and then I will just, as I get closer, then I'll fill some spots in where I want to, you know, because I can't feasibly take the whole month off, even though I wish I could, but
I know.
Yeah,
I always say I'm taking all of September off.
Yeah.
I actually take a lot off, but not the entire month.
Yeah. So, but I gotta kind of stick with it right now and do as much as I can for the next month and a half, so that we're in good shape when I gotta take some time off. And
I keep threatening to come and get a tattoo from you, but now you're a year out, man.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do with that?
It's funny because I got friends that will message me and be like, oh, I want to make an appointment. When, how far are you out? And I'll be like, about a year, and then they're like, oh, wow, that's crazy, and then they kind of put off making the appointment, and then they'll message me about 6 months later and be like, well, how far are you out? And I'm like, well, I'm about a year out. Right now we'd be 6 months closer to having an appointment.
Oh man, and now I have this complex where somebody was telling me, because I was telling them, no, I got a buddy who's a tattoo artist in Spokane, and because you live in Post Falls, but your shop's in Spokane, right?
Yeah,
so
not my
live
shop,
in Idaho.
But work, but work there, yeah.
And you work over there, and so I was telling somebody, and he started giving me a hard time. I'm not going to mention who it was, but he's like, yeah, you can't get tattoos after you're 40 years old. You're too old now. I'm like, are you serious, dude? I never even heard of that theory.
No, that's not a thing.
That's not a thing? Okay,
No.
Good. So I'd be okay. I wouldn't be like getting laughed at by when I have to go to the bathroom every 20 minutes or whatever.
No.
Because I'm old, decrepit.
Yeah. Well,
small bladder.
Maybe I'm too old to do them then.
All right, that's good. Well, dude, this has been a lot of fun. I love getting you on the show. We need to make sure that you get on the show at least once a year.
Okay, sounds good.
So we're 2 years consistent in the row, or so far.
Right.
So you were on. It was about last summer at this time,
it seems
too.
like it was about this time last year, yeah.
Yeah, and that I got a lot of good comments out of that one, dude.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so apparently people like you. I thought it was just me.
I don't know how.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming up.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I appreciate you having me on.
Congratulations on the bear.
Thank
you. For sure.
Thank
That's
you.
Freaking stellar bear. You made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We sure appreciate your support. This is Jim Huntsman signing off and reminding you to check us out at Instagram at The Western Huntsman and on Facebook at The Western Huntsman. And you can also check out the website at thewesternhuntsman.com. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.